Net YouTube channel. It is a cool night throughout the Midwest. It's actually getting to be pretty cold, and I think wherever you are, you may be having snow. We're getting snow in the forecast for the southeastern portion of Oklahoma where I am. And tonight on the summit, well, it is a live stream, and we have a panel. And we're excited about that panel. We're going to talk some GAC basketball tonight. With me on the summit, and I go clockwise from me across your screen, is the lead voice of the GAC Sports Network, and he is a broadcast instructor at Texarkana High in Texarkana, or excuse me, at Arkansas High in Texarkana, Arkansas, and a longtime friend, Michael Westbrook. And we continue on around, and it is the play-by-play man, the lead voice of the Southeastern Sports Network, a longtime college and high school sports broadcaster in the state of Oklahoma, Jay Lindly, and I am just Joey. Glad to be with you tonight. So listen, guys, let's talk some GAC basketball. We may have another guest coming up on the panel. We'll see if it works out that way or not. We are live on the MidwestSports.net YouTube channel and also on OklahomaSports.net Facebook page. So would love to get to hear from you. If you have a question for one of these guys, hey, they can answer any question, I think. We hope. We'll see.
Better pitch that to Mike.
If we can cover half of what we covered before we went on, we'll have a good show, I think.
I think you're exactly right. Well, guys, all right, let me ask you this then really quickly. I mean, the basketball in the Great American Conference right now, I believe it really is a quality product night in and night out. Now, before the conference portion of the schedule started in non-conference play, Great American Conference women's basketball and men's basketball, according to the Massey rankings, was really the tops in the country against non-conference opponents. And Michael, I mean, you've had a chance to see some of these teams play. How do you see that playing out? Is it a good brand of basketball in year 9 of the GAC?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, unfortunately, teams are starting to beat up on each other a little bit. And, of course, we see that every year, and no matter what sport, no matter what league. The good teams, they start to beat up on one another, and then eventually somebody's going to have a few more losses. I think we're seeing a pretty significant lockjam right now through a round of conference play, something I didn't quite expect. When you look at it on the women's side of things, it's pretty remarkable, really. You've got 4 teams tied at 10-4 in the Great American Conference, and the perennial powerhouses from the league, Arkansas Tech and Harding, they're starting to win basketball games again, and that's putting some pressure on Southeastern, which Jay will talk about, I know, and Southern Nazarene. And, I mean, you've got 9-5 right after that with Henderson and Southwestern, and then Southern Arkansas and Monticello at 8-6. It's like one win or one loss is really that crucial down the stretch here with just about 4 weeks to go until the conference tournament. That's just on the women's side.
Yeah, just on the women's side alone. Well, Jay, you, as Michael mentioned, you've seen Southeastern play. I know at this point in the schedule, past the midpoint, you've had a chance to see everyone play as you've been to all the home and away games for Southeastern this year. Southeastern, one of 4 teams in that top 4, again, in that logjam in the top position. How good are they this year, and how big is it to finally have Katie Webb back for an entire season?
Well, it is nice to have Katie back for an entire season. And you look at this, I think that, to go back to your original statement, I think the conference as a whole, basketball-wise, this is the best that I've seen it, particularly on the men's side, just because I think the men top to bottom, there are no gimmies. I mean, even the people at the bottom of that, Harding here just this past week, took ECU to overtime. So on the men's side, I think it's really, really good top to bottom. On the women's side, I think the top 9 teams within that, and sitting outside of that right now, Northwestern, Oklahoma State, I think can go out and beat anybody on any given night. So I agree. I think that part's been huge. As for Katie, having her back and having her for a full season, and not just that, I think this group, this being her senior year, having a pair of sophomores that got a lot of experience a year ago with Cameron Cantwell and Briley Moon, I think that's been helpful. I think that, having a Division I transfer who, if you're sitting there and you're just looking at the overall numbers as far as like points per game, things like that, you wouldn't think Logan Ostrich is that big of an impact, but defensively, she is not in and not out. I think the thing that's most interesting is within the conference itself, Arkansas Tech, one, them losing basically 47% of their scoring right at the holiday break. Anybody else in this conference, Southeastern included, would really be in a world of hurt. And they figured it out really, really fast. I mean, Southeastern goes up there, beats them by 30 points. They come here this past weekend and they win by 8. I think that they've certainly, figured it out here in recent weeks. I think they've now won 5 in a row after that win over Southeastern the other day. As for Harding, I mean, after watching them play back early in the season with Kelly Lampo and playing without Kelly Lampo, I don't know how they are better, but right now they look like a better team. I don't know if they're free or moving or what the case is. So you got those two that are perennial powers that are picking up the slack. And then in addition to that, I mean, to me, the big surprise, Southern Arkansas. Who would have thought Southern Arkansas after a year ago? Here they are. They have not lost back-to-back games yet this season. There aren't many people in this conference that can say that. And if it were the end of the day, they would be in the conference tournament. And with their style of defense, that up and down the court pressure that is just relentless. And keep in mind, Harding turned the ball over 47 times against them the first time they met. 47 times. That's insane. And so, I mean, I give a lot of credit to what's happened there because that's a huge turnaround given the fact that they haven't really changed a lot of the personnel that they had on that team a year ago that they had, I think it was 3 conference wins last year. And now here they are right in the middle in the thick of things. I just think that's a pretty impressive run by the Lady Mule Riders.
Too, Jay.
By the way, Harding having won 6 in a row coming into this week's game, the Harding Lady Bison. So one of those top 4 teams. It's almost unfathomable to think that a team could turn the ball over 47 times. I mean, that's almost a turnover a minute. Do you even get that many possessions in a game to be able to turn it over that many times?
Now, Southern Arkansas turned it over 30 times in that game. Like, apparently, I don't know what the deal was. I don't know if whistles were swallowed or what, but obviously there were a lot of turnovers in that game.
All right. Well, listen, Michael, I want to give you an opportunity to tell me what you think. Who do you think at this point in time, at least, and I know we're talking about the women's side, but also on the men's side of the ball too, who do you think right now with just 3 weeks left in the regular season, who's playing the best basketball in the league right now?
Well, I got to agree with Jay and what he said about Arkansas Tech and, what they've been able to do lately on the women's side, I think is just really impressive. I mean, they've won 5 in a row. You could argue that Harding is a little bit better right now just because they've won 6 in a row. Those two teams, to me, are playing the best basketball on the women's side. I know Southeastern had a slip up on the men's side there on the road at Henderson, but I'll say this. They had an overtime win against Ouachita on the Thursday night game, 90-83, and they just played, their hearts out that night to get that win in an environment that was loud. Jay and I were both there. It was a really intense setting.
And to be honest, I enjoyed it. It's not very often you go anywhere in Division II. The Ouachita crowd was really, really into that.
Yeah. So, is Southeastern playing the best right now? Maybe not. They're still one of the teams you certainly are going to be looking at the end of the year and see them at the top of the standings. East Central's won 3 in a row. I like the way they're playing right now. That's a team that had a triple overtime game earlier this year, So as going back to Jay's point, some teams are, not only are they battling each other on the men's side and it's up for grabs each night. Sometimes it takes overtime or double or triple overtime, but I think East Central's playing pretty well, but then you have to go back and look, who have they played lately? And you got to have that whole conversation. But their last win was against Harding, who has not played that well lately. So they've gone through the part of the schedule where they're supposed to be getting wins. At least that's the way it looks right now. But I still think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with down the stretch too.
You talk about supposed to be getting wins, Michael. Let me ask this question to both of you all really quickly. And this was something that was pointed out to me a couple of weeks ago and, looking up on my own as well, home court advantage. And again, you go back to the Massey rankings, and this is something that statistically factors in. The Great American Conference in both the women's and the men's basketball, both were tops in the country in the NCAA and actually on all levels of the NCAA, not just Division II, but in the NCAA in home court advantage. So getting a win at home is where you're supposed to get those wins. Picking up a win on the road almost at this point is luxury.
Yeah, you got all this free time, Joey. Why don't you do a long study on what it's like to go on the road? But I want to know, what are they eating on the road? How much are they sleeping on the road? You know, I just think it's tough to win on the road because you got those long bus trips. You're not in your normal rhythm, and the ball's gonna bounce your way at least once or twice at home. You're used to your court, your rim, but it is pretty phenomenal the way it is. The way it has developed out this year. The home and road records. Southeastern 9-0 at home, Southern Nazarene 10-1, East Central 9-0, Henderson 10-0 on the men's side there, and that's the reason those 4 teams are at the top of the standings, because they've won every game. They've consistently won at home.
Yeah, Jay.
Well, kind of going back, you asked about who's playing the best on the women's side. I think you look at the standings right now. I think the top 8 is your final 8. I don't know what that order is. The only reason I say that, looking at Northwestern's schedule, seeing that they've lost a few, including they lost a home game this past weekend on the women's side, I think that's going to be very, very tough for Northwestern. I mean, they've still got Henderson, they've still got Tech, and they've still got Harding on their slate. And I think that's going to be a little bit too much for the Lady Rangers to overcome. As for the guys' side of things, the home court advantage is huge. I will say, I think that basketball is the one thing where the crowd can really influence. And I say that from a standpoint of, I'm out there at Henderson. Yeah, it was the night after an overtime win against Ouachita, but to me, it's just statistically impossible to get 42 points in the paint and go to the free throw line for 7 free throws. And so, I'm serious when I say that. Now, that's nobody's fault. Just like Henderson, just like Ouachita, Henderson's crowd was great. I think that you can, if you've got good home crowds, you can get some of that going, and you can get some of that mojo that you obviously will not have on the road. And when you look at the men's side of things right now, I like Southeastern, obviously. I think the one thing that I think sets them and Southern Naz apart from everyone else within this conference is with Southeastern, they've literally got 5 guys on the floor that can go for 20 at any given moment. And for Southern Nazarene, they've got 3 guys like that. And you look at what they have with Jonathan Dunn and Micah Spate. We're going to see them again this coming Saturday. And thank goodness Spate's graduating. I've seen enough of Micah Spate. He's just a tremendous athlete. He's a tremendous player. He's fun to watch. He's not necessarily fun to call against when you're calling a game, although he does amaze you from time to time. I think the difference between those 2 teams, I think Henderson probably has the best defense of those top 4 teams right now. But then in addition to that, I think that when you look at, with East Central, Cameron Talley obviously stands out. You look at Arkansas Tech, a team that struggles on the road. They're great at home. They've got RJ Glasper. But where are those second and third scoring options at on the road? That's the big thing that you were alluding to a while ago. I just think that the road, like you said, it's difficult in a lot of different ways. And if you don't have multiple scoring options, you're going to lose a lot of those games on the road. Look at Arkansas Tech. After this past week, they're still winless on the road this year. Who would have thought that? This is the same team that gave Southeastern their first conference loss of the season.
And they're, by the way, 11-2 at home. Yeah. So yes. that's a crazy number. It really is a crazy number when you think about that. Well, speaking now, of course, with Michael Westbrook and Jay Lindly here on the Summit, let me ask you one other question too. You talked about Southeastern and Southern Nazarene. Let's stay with men's basketball for just one more moment. You're talking about, by the way, within those 2 teams, a load of talent, a boatload of talent for both those teams, and it's one of the reasons that they're up at the top right now, and actually in the top 2 spots in the men's standings at 11-3 and 10-4. Southeastern currently at the top of the standings, and pretty much has been there for the most of the season. You're also looking at the 2 most recent players of the year in the Great American Conference, in Kevin Buckingham and in Jonathan Dunn. Now, I think Kevin Buckingham is putting on quite a show to be able to say, hey, listen, he should get recognition. And you could be you could be looking at a back-to-back champion here. The flip side of that is Jonathan Dunn's been named Player of the Week. Let's see, out of like 10 or 11 weeks so far, I think 14 times.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is, they're the only two guys in the league this year that have been named National Player of the Year also.
Yeah,
I mean, they're obviously head above everyone.
They really are. Back-to-back weeks, by the way. National Player of the Week in the NCAA Division II. Seriously, though, Jonathan Dunn 6 times, including this week, Player of the Week in the Great American Conference. So, how does that race shake out? And is it one of those things where the team the player that gets the Player of the Year in the GAC, then the other team winds up winning the conference championship?
Yeah, well, I by Christmas break, I think Jonathan Dunn was at 7 30-point games already at Christmas break. I don't know what the number is now. Jay will probably have that before his broadcast this weekend. I think it probably is the coaches are going to go, okay, well, whichever team wins the league, if it's one of those two, the coaches probably vote for that player on the winning team as the conference player of the year. But I don't know. Could surprise some people. Maybe they won't vote that way. They're both phenomenal players. They got a lot of pieces around them. Jay mentioned that earlier. And I want to hit on one thing in a moment about – well, I'll go ahead and mention it now. Jay, you said that Micah Spate's so fun to watch for the crowd. He's taken 193-point attempts already this year. 190. And he's one of the top 25 3-point shooters in the league. And then Southeastern's got the number 1 3-point shooter in the league in Kyle Gonsalves. So there are some weapons around Jonathan Dunn and Buckingham. But I don't think we've ever seen two guys in the league that just have such a pure shot the way those two guys do. Buckingham's so good around the rim. And Jonathan Dunn, every time he pulls up to shoot, it almost looks like it's always going in.
Oh, yeah. And the thing of it is it wouldn't surprise me. By the way, I got that number before we even get to Saturday. I was checking it out. He's got 8 30-point games this season.
8, okay.
But the thing of that is that I look at is, and I really don't know if you're voting on it, I don't know how you break it apart because, as you said, they both have phenomenal pieces around them. It is done averaging 29 a game without Spate throwing out 6 assists a game. Is Buckingham averaging 22 a game without Adam Dorsky throwing out 9 assists a game, which leads the conference overwhelmingly. And if they look at it from that standpoint, it may seriously come down to who wins the regular season title. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you break those two apart because the reality of it is both of their games, Dunn and Buckingham's games, are just different. They're not the same style of player, but they're both dominant at what they do. And I mean, it's been fun. It's been fun to watch both of those guys, and it's been fun to watch Spade as well. And it's funny because, and I know you're like this. I know all of us are like this. If you're behind a mic for a certain team, you're certainly going to shade that way. You're always going to be that way. But at the end of the day, you want to be involved in a broadcast that's fun and entertaining. And I've never, in my time of this over the last 3 years in particular, between Southeastern and Southern Edge, you got to think this all really got started at the conference tournament like 2 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
This has become a fun little rivalry. It's like whenever Southeastern went up there to Bethany in December, I had no doubt in my mind that Southern Naz was going to be locked and loaded on full, just all cylinders because of what happened last December when Southern Nazarene came to Durant. Similar situations. Both teams were nationally ranked when they entered the other person's building, and similarly, the unranked team won. I mean, I just think it's a great rivalry, and it's fun seeing good athletes perform well.
Well, this may be a conversation for another topic or an older crowd. I'm a little younger than both of y'all. I always hear I know I'd throw that in. I always hear, the old college days when a player stayed around for 4 years, sometimes 5, I guess. I don't know. You built those rivalries, and I think we are seeing that in our league this year. Like you just said, some guys that they know each other the last few years. That makes it more fun for everybody when they stick around and they play well each time they go out against each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think
that guys stayed around for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Katie Webb's been around for 7 or 8. So
there you go.
You know, I'm just
boy, your memory is slipping because Joey's older than me, so I get to play the middle ground.
There we go. Okay. Oh, wow. Sorry, Joey.
whatever. That's all right. I'll try to stay awake through the rest of this broadcast, then, guys. That's okay. I'll try not to slip into a nap. Okay. Let me ask you this. And by the way, I do have word that Doug Self is all right. So
that's good.
I have to get my Doug Self drop in every broadcast. So we've met that quota now, and we know that he's all right. So we'll get him in on the next time. Okay, I have to ask the panel in now. There is this mythical panel that follows my family around, and occasionally we ask the panel, if something's come up, does the panel accept this premise or not? And so I'm going to ask you as the panel, as we start to wrap up our time, which, by the way, I appreciate you taking some time out tonight on this live broadcast on the YouTube channel and also on OklahomaSports.net Facebook. Does the panel accept? So here are a couple of premises. Does the panel accept this? We'll go ahead and stick with Southeastern because we have talked about Southeastern, and I know, Jay, you know this well. Southeastern will have at least one number 1 seed in the GAC postseason tournament. Does the panel accept this? Jay?
Man, I mean, it's tough right now to say that. And the only reason I say that, if there were to be one, I think it would be on the men just because they've been the hotter of the two. But if you look at their schedule versus, say, Southern Naz schedule, I think that Southeastern schedule is really, really difficult here over the next couple of. I would go to accept that, and I will as a homer. But I'm going to tell you that the next three games, in my opinion, determine that. And the reason I say that is because Oklahoma Baptist, they're coming off of a crazy buzzer beater on Saturday to win. So you got them on Thursday night. You have Southern Naz in Durant, and then you have East Central. So those 3 games in a row, I think, are huge in splitting themselves away from the rest of the pack. If they go out, they win those 3 games, then I don't see the men faltering, because after that they've got Northwestern at home. They go on the road to Southern Arkansas and Monticello, and they're back home, and they'll have that matchup with Ouachita and Henderson State. So I think the next 3 games will go a long way in determining that, at least for the men's side. So I mean, I'll accept it. Hey, 2. All I got to have is 1 out of 2, so I like those odds.
Michael, do you accept that
as well? I think on the women's side, they've got some wins in front of them the next couple of weeks. I feel like they do. I think they're going to bounce back from what's been a tough couple of weeks here for them, but they've still done okay, and they're still at the top of the standings, and I think they're going to be right there in the mix of things. So, and the men, I can't say anything more that Jay didn't already say. I really like their chances.
All right, the panel accepts that. The panel does accept that, so that's fine. Okay. By the way, too,
I hope I answered that, though. I hope I answered as well as the delegation in Iowa did.
Now, see,
I hope I danced that well.
I've worked hard to not drop an Iowa caucus joke so far. And Jay,
I'm trying not to. I don't want to add any fuel to Southern Nazarene's fire. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I've already seen what those guys can do.
That's fine. One of the number 2, by the way, on the women's side, this is where this is, and I think this is legit, is that Southeastern's women's team is in a 4-way tie for first place. 4-way tie for first place, by the way, and has lost 3 consecutive games on a 3-game losing streak right now, and still at the top of the standings. So I think that was probably something there. All right, here we go. Next premise. Does the panel accept this? Let's go to women's basketball. Stay there really quickly. The defending national runners-up, the Southwestern Lady Bulldogs, the defending tournament champions as well. If Southwestern makes the conference tournament, Jay, you've already put them in the conference tournament because you have the top 8 right now as the top 8, and I think that's legitimate. Now, Northwestern may have something to say about that, but wherever Southwestern winds up, seeded 1 through 8 or wherever right now would be in the bottom half, Southwestern's women's basketball is the number 1 team you do not want to face in the first round of the GAC tournament. Do you accept that premise? Michael, I'll go with you.
I got to start this one. So they're technically in 5th place right now, tied for 5th. You got the top 4 there that would be 1 through 4. So 5th or 6th likely right now. Yeah, I mean, if you're just talking simply about Coach Kelsey Music and what she's done in a decade plus at Southwestern and her leadership with that team, I wouldn't want to face them. I wouldn't want to put my team out there against them, but they're not the same team that they've been in the past. And tradition only goes so far when none of the players are out there from before, but I'll still go ahead and accept it and say, yeah, that would be a really tough draw in the opening round.
Jay?
I say
Southwestern
I
is
disagree.
one team. You disagree. Okay. Who would you not want to face?
Because only reason is I say Southern Arkansas. I mean,
Yeah.
what they're doing there, the style that they're playing is, I mean, it's to liken it to football. It's like preparing for Harding. You don't see it every game. So now, if you beat it, because it is full court pressure, you're going to get easy looks. You're going to have Katie Webb go for 30 points in the night. But if you're not prepared for it, you're going to turn the ball over 47 times like Harding did. I mean, I just don't. The only thing about them about Southern Arkansas that's so unique is it's really team basketball. You go and look at their numbers. There's no one there averaging 15, 16 a game. There's no one you can key on. They all average 7 to 9 points a game.
Okay, so the panel does not accept that one. And I understand that.
No, it's worth mentioning. The one conference game I missed this year was during the Live United Bowl that you and I were calling, Joey. So I missed the Ouachita Southern Arkansas game there in Arkadelphia. I heard a lot about the way that Coach Collins has his team playing, and I've been excited to see it. But I guess I'm glad I wasn't there for a 20 or 30 point turnover night. But it's I like what you're saying there, Jay. I'm looking forward to seeing them at the conference tournament.
Well, it's fun to watch. I mean, it's fun to watch as far as that goes. But not everybody's going to be able to do the style that he has right now. I'm really interested to see what happens when he actually gets more of his players in to run that style.
Yeah.
By the way, tonight's broadcast is brought to you by the letters G, A, and C and by the number 47. If you don't remember any other number tonight, remember 47. That's a good one to take out. All right, final premise, gentlemen, that the panel needs to know. On the men's side of the basketball, and I realize, again, here's where things get tough. I'll actually posit it to you for either side, women's or men's, because, again, the brand of basketball is so good, but it's such a logjam at the top. Is that the GAC is a 3-team league in men's basketball in the NCAA tournament this year? Jay?
I think they should be. I really think they should be. Show me another conference. I mean, we've sat here and talked about where the conference was ranked in the Massey ratings versus the other non-conference opponents. And then you see how, and this is a sad thing because Westbrook, you opened with this, that, to a degree, we're now cannibalizing ourselves because there is no dominant force. But I don't see why Southeastern and Southern Nazarene shouldn't be in that mix. And to be honest, thereafter, between East Central and Henderson, and hey, Oklahoma Baptist could easily have something to say for it. They still have 8 games left. I mean, so from the men's side, do I think it happens? No. Should it? Yes, absolutely.
So how do we accept this, Joey? Because I'm right there with Jay. Does that mean we're accepting it or we're denying?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take a should as an accepting if you think so. Should the GAC be a 3-team league?
Yeah, I should. Yeah, I would accept that. I don't think it'll happen. I think too many teams still have to play each other. There's going to be a few more losses. Conference tournament comes in. Somebody's going to lose in an opening round game that probably should win. And if that happens, that really hurts your chances. So it'll be difficult, but it'd be great to see. I'd like to see it.
I think the only way it happens is if Southern Southeastern finish strong, and then they're one of the ones that take an early out, and someone makes a run. I think that's the only way it happens.
Now,
that's forecasting. That's forecasting that Southeastern and Southern Naz stay where they're at down the road. But I mean, I just think it takes too much for 3 teams to get in, although I think it should be the case this year.
Jay, if it does happen, I'm going to postpone my spring break trip because I got put in the doghouse last year with my wife by watching and listening to you call those playoff games during my spring break. And then I'd flip over and check in on Southern Nazarene. Okay. So
she was like, I'm tired of hearing that guy chew nails.
Yeah, I'll just stay home at my computer if they all make it in again so I can keep up with it.
All right. Well, hey, listen, and guys, we're 3 weeks away from an opportunity to see one another in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And last year seemed to be the swan song for the GAC in Bartlesville. This year, going back to Bartlesville, one more opportunity. So I wasn't there last year. I'm looking forward to going back and being a part of the tournament there one more time. Folks in Bartlesville do a really good job of putting on a tournament, and they really like to take care of the folks that are up there. And so I appreciate that. So I would just give you an opportunity then as we wrap up our time here on the summit. Michael, any closing thoughts about basketball 3 weeks from the finish line, or at least from the conference tournament?
Yeah. Jay, they didn't tell Joey we're going back to Bartlesville this year just for him so he could be there this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for Ouachita, the team that I get to cover most of the year, it hadn't been a great year. That's just the reality. They're trying to find some scores on the men's side. The women just don't have a very deep roster to go to this year. So, once I get into conference tournament mode, I'm like Jay, and that switch goes off, and I just call the game, and I want to see some good games and some exciting action. And so there's a lot of action still to be figured out, but I'm certainly looking forward to Bartlesville, and that's always so much fun. 16 teams, we all get together and see one another and talk a little more basketball. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that Southern Nazarene Southeastern outcome this week to see how that goes. And then the big rivalry week, February 13th, I think it is, the rivalry games. That'll be fun to see how that goes. And that should really start to tell us some things by about February 13th where everybody's at.
Jay, I know big games coming up this weekend, and you've already mentioned that. But, of course, it has to have been a fun ride for you all year long. And I know that this is one of those seasons that you just almost don't want it to end.
Well, no, it's what I tell everyone. I try to tell people I love that people listen. I love that people watch, but I prefer them come see it for themselves. I mean, it's a rarity at this level to get one nationally ranked team on campus, and it is certainly a rarity, if not never happens, that you have two at the same time. I mean, to have two teams that night in, night out, you throw in a headset, and literally, I mean, like I said, from my standpoint, I always try to separate it a little bit because I'm not shooting the shots. I'm not making the plays. But it is fun to throw in a headset going, we're about to get 2 dubs. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's fun going into a gym with that kind of confidence. And considering the fact that the way things have gone, I mean, I remember when I first got this, and you guys know, being a Southeastern grad, I mean, this is something I always wanted to do. And kind of going back to the year one of this, where the Southeastern teams were in the middle of the road, I always found it interesting. People were cool to hang around and talk to me afterwards. And now that we're winning, the lights are getting shut off on me. I feel like your buddy Rex in my post game show turning out the lights on me.
Rex will be happy to know he got a shout out there.
Yep.
He is the only person in the GAC that has a longer post game than Jay Lindly. I've listened to them. I've experienced them firsthand, and there's no doubt about it. But again, it's a fun time to be a Southeastern fan. So, well, it's been fun talking GAC basketball with you guys. Again, Michael Westbrook, the lead voice of the GAC Sports Network, and I know Bartlesville's right around the corner. Enjoy the rest of the Ouachita season. Jay Lindly, you are just almost literally right around the corner from me.
I know, we could have done this in your nifty studio.
We have to do that sometime.
I could have had a better microphone.
I don't. It's supposed to snow here in just a little bit, so I'm getting bundled up out here.
The only other thing, hey, I'll part with you guys on this. Between now and when we see one another, one, I'll be a year older, and I guarantee you my beard will be more Methuselah-like at the Great American Conference tournament. We're not cutting this thing until the season's over.
Good for you. Well, you're rocking it, dude. You're totally rocking it. Well, listen, it's almost birthday time around here. By the way, I'll say a shout out to my twins. They turned 13 in 2 days. So we're about to have three teenagers in the McWilliams household. So we would appreciate your prayers, and that'd be all right. Anyway, for Michael Westbrook and Jay Lindly, thanks for watching the summit tonight, and I will definitely have these guys back on. There is no doubt about that. As we get even closer to time to meet in Bartlesville, please be sure and keep this channel in mind. Like and share this broadcast. Please subscribe to MidwestSports.net. We'll be in studio on February 8th for Midwest Sports Saturday and on the road February 15th for the flagship show, Midwest Sports Saturday, from Conway, Arkansas, on the campus of Central Baptist College. I'm Joey McWilliams. Thanks again for watching. God bless you. Have a great night.